recently, the Kano State Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission detained leaders of Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, RIFAN, the Kano chapter of it, for alleged misappropriation of 10 billion naira of federal government financial intervention that was meant for rice farmers in Kano. Now, the chairman of the commission, Barrister Muhuyi Magaji Rumingado, who confirmed the development at a press briefing, disclosed the commission's investigation over diversion of the funds released to farmers in 2018 that was under the Anchor Borrowers Scheme dispersed by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Well, joining us now to discuss the impact so far of the commission is Edwin Bwala, a legal practitioner and also member of the Honourable Society of Lincolns in London. Edwin Bwala was also the secretary to the Appeals Committee of the 2020 Edo Governorship Screening. Edwin, welcome to the show, and thank you very much for joining us on Newsday today. I think we'll start off with a very simple question. How necessary was the birth of this commission, and what has been achieved so far?
Well, thank you for having me. I don't know if I heard the first name correct, but my name is Daniel Bwala. The Public Complaint and Anti-Corruption Commission of Kano was established a long time ago, and I think in three succession, but this administration of Governor Ganduje gave the teeth and the strong will in the fight against corruption, as is evidenced in the multiple results that we are seeing, hearing, and reading all across board. Now, the young man who is chairing that commission is a legal practitioner of requisite knowledge. But important note, why the Anti-Corruption Commission of Kano is important and profiling it is necessary is because the entire gamut of anti-corruption fight, if not domesticated into states, if not institutionalized in states, it will be difficult for the federal government to have a holistic approach to the fight against corruption. And I'll give you instance. You see, there has been outcry and complaints by the public whenever issue of corruption arises against ministers of the government of the Federation or DGs or appointees of the government. So oftentimes when the government is criticized, you would often hear them talk about attacking the opponent or other private individuals, but sparing the people who are ministers or appointees of the president. Now, the distinctive quality of that of Kano is that we have seen and are hearing how that commissioners in the current government are losing their jobs when they are found wanting. How that appointees of the government, in fact, you recall not quite long ago when a monarch from Kano was indicted by that commission and he ended up losing his job. The whole essence of anti-corruption fight is that nobody should be spared. It is not a fight against the opponent or a fight against corruption as far as the external people are concerned. It is meant to be one that also x-ray the activities of the government at the moment. So the Kano approach to the anti-corruption fight to me is preventive. And it is always much more important and result-oriented when the fight against corruption prevents the act, then you come back after the act has been committed, and then it becomes a difficult case of recoveries of the monies that were looted because of either obvious logjam that we have in our judicial system or the way in which allegedly the corrupt public officials are able to manipulate the system and then delay the administration of justice. So the Kano approach is preventive in the sense that, like what happened recently with the Rise something, there are federal government projects across the states of the Federation. And if you wait until this government is out before you begin to then assess whether there was impact and whether or not money was stolen, then it will be too late, like I said. But the Kano approach is to look at it right now, even as the execution of the project is ongoing, to see if there are infractions so that those who commit such infraction are brought to book. And you have more than 3,000 prosecution going on at the moment in Kano through the anti-corruption campaign. So that is why someone like me, who is a dogged supporter of the anti-corruption fight in the government, is very, very excited about the way Kano is giving their approach. And I call on other states to also take it upon themselves to see how they can institutionalize the fight. We're talking of this COVID-19. You must have been reporting in your news media how that complaints are coming here and there on the administration of the COVID-19 funds across the federal, state, and the local levels. Medicines are not reaching out to places. Doctors are complaining that personal protective equipment is not reaching out to them. People who are in COVID-19 centers are complaining of not having adequate medical attention. All boiling down to the way and manner in which the monies are mal-administered. So anti-corruption fight that is proactive, that sees the project at its ongoing, investigate it and prosecute, to me, is the anti-corruption that is modeled after the FBI and some of these other advanced countries like NCA in the United Kingdom.
All right, Daniel, I would like to find out from you, what's the public perception towards this state anti-graft fight? Because clearly, a lot of people still have question marks about the governor of the state, Kano State Governor, Governor Ganduje, and some videos that actually showed the man at a certain time, although it was disputed, at a certain time pocketing dollars. That he's even been given a nickname Gandola at the moment. What is the public perception towards this fight? Is it holistic or is it just targeted towards some individuals?
So like I gave you an example, and this is how you distill and decipher one that can be construed as either vindictive of the external people or one that is holistic. Now, if you say you're fighting corruption and no member of your cabinet or people in your government are either investigated or brought to book, then there can be a perception by the public that the fight is not holistic. Here I give you an instance of a state like Kano that is taking the fight to the members of this government. I'm telling you, commissioners are losing their jobs, directors are losing their jobs, are being prosecuted. So let me say an instance. If Arise Television is fighting against corruption, and then people who work in Arise Television are being investigated and prosecuted, every right-thinking member of the society looking at it will say, this is indeed an objective approach to the fight, because naturally there is the belief that you will protect your own and go after the ones that are not your own. But in Kano's case, they are investigating indigents of Kano, members of the government of Governor Ganduje. Now, there is this thing in politics we call spinning, where you take up an item and then use it to distract the attention of the generality of the people. And you have always heard people talking about isolating this video that currently, as we speak, is subject of forensic study. Because as you are in your studio, you who are in the journalist world, you know how electronics medium and electronic devices can be manipulated. And that's why if you go to advanced countries like UK or US, even when an incident takes place, let's say armed robbery or violence takes place, that everyone can see from the camera, when law enforcement come to the scene, they will seal up the place and they will tell the media that we are going to investigate and get back. And the public, sometimes you sit down in your TV and you say, well, what do you mean by investigating? When we can just see that the car just crashed with the person or someone just shot someone. Because in investigation, various factors are put into consideration. Forensic analysis, determination of whether something is doctored, the mental element of the person, whether that is a case of cybercrime. And we know that cybercrime law is applicable to the administration of democracy in Nigeria. Now, I have this understanding that video is being investigated. In fact, I am hearing lately that there is even a cybercrime approach to the investigation of that matter. This is without prejudice to the fact that the thing is in court. And by my discipline of law, one thing I have learned, which has helped me over the years, and it is part of the ethics of our profession, is that once something is subjected, it is a subject of court litigation, you are not permitted to delve on the merit or demerit of the matter, because doing so will mean you are preempting the court or you are prejudicing the outcome of the case. That is why I choose not to talk more on that.
And that's fine, Daniel, that you don't want to...
If the public have an object...
That's fine that you don't want to preempt, but I think what we're trying to get at here, if we do go back to the Ganduje gates, is that how can we necessarily expect this commission to act as an independent commission? Can we expect that this commission is going to be sustained, it's going to have some sort of sustenance as well? What is the link to its independence? How connected is it rather to its independence and not necessarily to government, if I can put it that way? Because quite frankly, I don't see how public perception would not be that certain members of government may just be able to get away with whatever they want to under this commission.
So if that's your argument, I take you on your argument, for example. When I have given you a graphic example of how members of his government, members of his cabinet, commissioners, directors who are appointees of the governor are being investigated, does a governor need for example, anti-graft body to indict a commissioner before he fires him? The constitution is clear. They serve at the pleasure of the governor. the same way ministers serve at the pleasure of the president. So if I am a governor and I have a commissioner, I no longer require his service. I don't need Anti-Graft to indict him. I simply tell him to go and I bring someone else. So you cannot make an accurate argument to suggest that if individuals in his government like commissioners or directors are fired on the account of graft, and you are saying it's just because he's hunting them, that argument cannot be sustained because he does not need Anti-Graft to fire those individuals. That is one. Then number two, like I told you about spinning, if I bring 10 items on the table and I make argument for it, and one item is a subject of investigation, but 9 other items are going smoothly and the general public can see and can investigate for themselves. That's why in our discipline we say a right thinking, because there are members of the public that are not right thinking. When your perception is biased by political consideration or biased by a narrative that is spinned by political opponent, when your judgment is not based on objectivity, then it can be classified as bias. But a right-thinking member of the society will look at the holistic approach of the anti-graft in Kano. And I challenge you as you ask me the question, can you point at an opponent of the government or an opponent of APC in that state that is being prosecuted in isolation without members of APC and then drive home the message that it is an anti-graft fight against the opponent? And I argue no. But my argument is that members of the government are being investigated. Funds that are committed to your care as a commissioner or as a director, if you mismanage the funds, they don't wait until when you leave office before you're investigated. They have a machinery in place that checkmate the activities. And this is part of the argument I make even to the federal government. Where every ministry of government should have anti-corruption unit that monitor procurement, that monitor execution of projects.
Well, on that note, we will have to call that conversation to a close.